right, Matt Keith, owner of Leverage Films. Appreciate you having me.
No, man, appreciate you coming. It was cool, and I think when I reached out to you, I was surprised you came on, honestly, but it was, we kind of got inspired by the movies y'all made, and that's what we were talking about before, like the whole idea of telling Louisiana's history, whether it's like what we're doing in kind of every aspect or what you're doing with the music stuff. And
right.
So, yeah, man, I appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
So, take it from the beginning, man, kind of, where'd you grow up, what that looked like, and then, how you got into music.
Okay. Born and raised in Baton Rouge. Like we were saying, off camera, I probably lived in 35 different places in Baton Rouge, from Shenandoah to Gardere, Central, all across. I did, as far as on the film side, I did films when we had projects in high school. I'd always do a film, instead I didn't want to write you could write a paper or something. And I was, of course, the only one that would do a film.
Yeah.
And this is when we used to use the little handy cams, back in the day. But I kind of started from there. And then I was at another production. Some friends of mine, Wright Studios, and they got a phone call. It was Glory Road. It was a big film that they shot here. They got a call and they said they offered somebody over there a job, and the job was to fill up the stadium for basketball games, just to fill it up. And he was like, "Man, I don't want to do this." And he said, "Matt, you want to do this?" Just kind of joking, because I was just at their office. And I said, "Well, let me take the call." And so I took the call, and it was just kind of random. And I went down there, I think the same day, and they gave me the location job. And from there, I started doing film. So I worked on the bigger films for probably, I think the first 3 or 4 years. This was back in 2004. And then from there, I started producing around 2006, 2007, and then still doing it. About 50 films later, I'd say.
So like when Celtic Studios and all that. That's correct. The last guy I had on, Jeff Vance, he was like an extra in that same movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was telling us about that.
Yeah. I met a lot of people on that, and it was crazy because it was like, some days it'd be 1,000 extras and stuff. Yeah. So, and I got to meet a lot of people that I still talk to this day that I met on that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did the music start?
Man, so the music started, just coming up, always listening to it. I was a big fan of the golden era, as they call it. Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J, Rakim, all those kind of guys. So, I started from there, and I started recording. I would say 91, and then myself and my best friend, we had a group, South Coast Coalition, that we created in 91, and then we kind of, I guess you want to call it mixtapes, whatever, but we put out a couple mixtapes at first, and then put out our first album in the stores in 95, which was South Coast Flavor.
Yeah, and I didn't realize y'all started that far back.
Yeah.
Until I was kind of doing some research on it this week. So what made, I guess so you started writing raps and stuff in high school, and then it just kind of went from there?
Yeah. Like I said, just for the love, the love of it. Used to watch Rap City, and all that stuff. And the thing was, there wasn't an industry here at all. We thought at first we thought we were the only artists in the city. Like, we didn't know. And then we end up running here. MC Nero in 95, that same year. And he kind of took us in, and our first concert, our kind of local tour was opening up for him.
Yeah.
And that was in 95.
Where'd y'all do shows at?
Man, we did shows at, I remember doing the Bingle they used to have by LSU. We did a teen club we used to do a lot, was Club Illusions, which is off of Sherwood. I don't know if you remember that. Mm-hmm. We did with him across the river. We did the Civic Center over in Plaquemine. I remember that same night we did a show there, and then we headed across the river back to Baton Rouge and did a show at Club Legends, which was off Florida. A show at just all over Baton Rouge.
Just anywhere. Yeah. And what was that like?
Man, at first it was tough, I think it probably the first couple of years we might have saw maybe one other white person inside a venue. Like, at the time it was kind of on this side of the track. It was more people in the grunge at the time, right. Pearl Jam, Nirvana, stuff like that. So it was tough, but we knew like, this is the route we had to take if we wanted to, never knowing like how far Baton Rouge rap would be, nowadays. At the time we were just kind of, doing it for fun, didn't really know what we were trying to do, just trying to do something.
Yeah. And when's it kind of start to take off, like start getting a following and people showing up?
Man, great question. I would say, really, I would say around 99, right around there. I always tell this story. This is pretty cool. I don't know if you're in the Catery. We used to do a bunch of concerts at the Catery, and I remember it was 2 shows that night. We did all ages, then they shut the doors down, and then we do the 18 and up crowd. So the first show went great. So we're like, man, that was really good. And then they go to close the doors, and we're doing some sound checks, doing some things in there, just kind of getting ready for the second show. And I go outside, and the line is just like around the corner. And for the first time, I was like, man, so I walk outside, and it was a group. It was like 4 or 5 girls, and they were like, "Man, I can't wait to see South Coast Coalition." And I'm standing right there, and they're not knowing that that's us. So I'm kind of taking all this in, and I went back inside and told Brock, like, "Okay, we're on to something." And I would say from there, that kind of opened my eyes. Where okay, we got to hustle harder. We got to, put in more work, and that's what we did.
Yeah, because and it was a different. Especially back then, you were selling CDs out of the car.
Well, tapes at first. We were selling tape. We didn't even have CDs at first. But then, no, you're right. Yeah. And really, that's where we gained a lot of the fan base, was selling out the trunk. And we even had an album called Trunk Music, because we would, just fill the trunk up with CDs and go city to city and sell hand to hand. And we did really well like that. We got to the point where we built our name up. We started doing these a compilation series called Third World. And I remember, shout out to Muhammad in Mobile. I would drive to Mobile, and that was another thing that showed me like, okay, we're on to something. He's like, you got the Third World with you? And I was like, yeah. And I said, you want to do a consignment, consignment where you drop it off, they sell it. If they sell it, he said, no, I want to buy them up front. And I want to say he bought like 250 copies from me up front. I think it was like $7 a piece at the time, but that showed me, okay, now we're getting out further. So what I learned from there was I started to hit the road, and I would kind of hit a box where I would drive to Houston. I would, kind of come over to Jackson, Mobile, Pensacola, all the way to Charlotte, and then come back. And what I would do was I'd go store to store, meet the managers. If they wouldn't buy them up front, I would do consignment, put posters up, and that was just kind of like grassroots back then. Yeah.
I remember they had in Walmart, or in that like little shopping center at Walmart Gonzales, they used to have a music store, and they had like
music
local
center.
Rap, music center, and they had like a local rap section.
Yeah.
And that was crazy too, because at that time, I mean, I was in high school in the early 2000s, but like that's when kind of Baton Rouge was starting to blow up as far as rap music.
Right. Well, and kind of at the time too, seeing CeeLo had a concentration camp, and I think that was the first. I mean, Nero on a regional level, I want to say it's Got a Lot of Respect album sold like 40,000 units of just the single itself. So that kind of showed me like, okay, I'm starting to see Baton Rouge is starting to, make some moves. And then here comes, CeeLo. And I met CeeLo in 96, I think, outside of Greg Duke's studio. And he had just bought, I remember, this white Expedition. And so I was like, oh, he's on. He's got this white Expedition, which it was not at the time off of. To see someone who could buy something like that at the time off of rap music sales, I was like, okay. And then I know they got the deal with Priority, and then from there it was just like, they took off.
And that reminds me too, because that was kind of something I didn't know about that studio. What's the guy's name?
It was Greg Dukes. It was off of Starring Lane. Matter of fact, a crazy story. I was going inside the studio one day. We had booked a session, and Beyonce walks out. Oh, shit. And I was like, man. And this was Destiny's Child's days. But and I knew who she was, but didn't think a whole lot about it. But just looking back now, thinking like, she was in town, needed to record something, so she's over at Greg Dukes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like the spot.
Yeah. Yeah. It was between that one and there was another one, Mr. Lee Daniels, we used to go to a lot in Baker. And that's the first time we ran into Young Bleed, Laylo, which is Max Minnelli, and Jay Vaughn. We ran into Young Air. But I mean, it was really only a handful of people that were recording at the time. Now, everybody's an artist.
I know. Yeah. Well, and that's crazy too, because like I think I discovered CeeLo at that music store on that on that shelf, and like that's what kind of opened me up to a lot of the Baton Rouge stuff. I found y'all on there, a lot of different stuff. Because I know, like we said, kind of early 2000s Baton Rouge rap starts to, Boosie comes and all that happens. So what does it look like during that time?
Man, okay, so I think it was Boosie's first paid feature was over. I'd say around 99, we run into Tebow and Mike the Hustler. So I'm hearing these two other white guys are rapping. So I got a call as a guy, DJ Tron, and he said, "Hey, look, you ought to link up with Tebow and them. They're in Baker, but they're doing the same thing kind of y'all are doing." So I said, "Okay, cool. Give me his number." So I called him that day, and then that night we ended up meeting up, and I see this white guy, gold teeth. He's wearing like a Southern University sweatsuit, whatever. But that was it. Like from the first night, we've been cool ever since. But from there, Tebow, rest in peace, Bobby DeSalle. But Tebow got with a guy, Bobby DeSalle, and he was starting up a label, and he opened up this studio off Old Hammond, and just really nice, man, top of the line equipment. And Tebow was over there first. And so the main thing was, we always work together. So Tebow said, "What do you think about, you and Brock, South Coast Coalition, coming over here, with me, over here with Bobby?" I'm like, cool. Right at that time, at the same time, because he hadn't signed yet. Bobby didn't sign Tebow, but that's when he ended up meeting with C Murder. Yeah. So C Murder automatically, they linked up, and he ended up signing with True Records. And so we're like, okay, you're over there. We're going to go ahead and roll with Bobby then. So Tebow had brought Boosie over there for his first feature, but he was like, look, I'm going over here, so y'all go ahead and everything that he's built over here, y'all just kind of slide in my place, I guess, if you want to say. And we learned a lot over there. That from there, like just being able to work the equipment and stuff. And that was in 2000. Yeah. And that's where we recorded our our third album, Southern Slang, in that studio over there with Bobby. And
at that time, they had was it Silk that was in Baton Rouge? I think Snoop Dogg came and recorded. So y'all were around them and recording with them, or? Well,
actually, Tebow was supposed to sign with Snoop, and he got into some trouble, and he got locked up, and that was right after Snoop had that. It was with him and Tupac. They got the case they had. They were just
when they beat that case.
And they beat that case. So with everything Tebow had going on, Snoop was kind of trying to back up from that a little bit, just because everything he was going through. Right. So, but they did do a song together, and he got Tebow paid really well. It was off of White Boys soundtrack, and it was Tebow and Snoop. Okay. Yeah.
And so what happens after that? I mean, so this is what y'all did y'all's third album there, and then because I know did you start touring with what's the guy's name from Baton Rouge? Because I think that was kind of in the movie too, where y'all. He started taking y'all on tour in the beginning of the
well, that was Nero at first, and then from there, we booking our own shows. We did do some tours with some people, but once we kind of figured it out, we were recorded ourselves, managed ourselves, and I would say too, as far as I know, we were one of the first to really take advantage of the internet as far as from here. Yeah. I remember even getting other artists, man, we don't want to mess with the internet. For what? I'm like, no, I'm telling you, it's a whole nother avenue. And we had a website called southcoastcoalition.com. And so we built this website and had no idea what it was going to become, but we were at a point where this, but way before social media, we were getting 1 million views a month on this website. So we're like, okay, how can I use this for our advantage? So we had a forum page, we had a store page, and you could purchase I only sold Baton Rouge music. And at this point, you know, we had linked up with everybody in the city. I had a selection of 50 different CDs from Baton Rouge that we would sell on this website. And man, it was huge. I mean, we were selling, I'm sold out, like constantly selling. I was selling to Germany, Australia, Spain, you know, all over Europe. It was just like every day we were selling units every day. Not only just ourselves, but everybody from Baton Rouge. So it was, I couldn't even keep up with it, you know. And then we had a forum page. It was like thousands of people signing up to this forum. And as far as the concerts, like you were asking, we used this as a major tool, was the website to promote, to do out-of-state shows, because we would promote it on the forum. So we would tell people, you know, where you from, you know, give us the information. Where do you want to see us perform? So a lot of times we would use that information to book concerts in other states.
Yeah, kind of book your own tour.
Yeah, yeah.
So y'all were independent the whole time?
The whole time.
Yeah. And really, and that's the way to go, I think. Right. On the money side, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We had got a couple offers. We had a lot of labels that would hit us up, but it was kind of like, I'm really glad we stayed independent, because we were more like, we wanted to put out music every year, and that's what we did. We put out 15 CDs total, you know, with a label at the time. Now they're letting you put it out a little quicker, but at the time, you know, major artists were coming out once every 2 years, once every 3 years. And we're like, no, we want to continually put out music. Yeah. And as far as I was really good at keeping records and stuff, but even with concerts, we had done almost 400 concerts. Like, so we really, we hit the road hard. And Kuiper was another one where we were trying to also kind of, you know, find different lanes. We did like a kind of, where we would have like they'd have it was like phone parties, and it was like just kind of mixing genres and stuff like that. And the reason we did that too, because we didn't have a major backing, we're just trying to grow our brand and reach out to as many people as we could.
I think one of the music videos y'all did, y'all had like a band.
Every now and then we bring bands too and do that. So, and bringing a band sometimes would get you in places like the Catering, the Varsity, like a lot of these you know, venues at the time, they didn't want rap in there, you know. So, you know, and that's another thing we kind of did. Once we started getting these venues, artists that let us perform, open up for them. Once we start in them, we're reaching back out, bringing in your MC Nero, your Max Minnelli, Young Bleed, like all these artists that, you know, put us on shows at first. Now we're able to bring them on shows where, like I said, at first they weren't having rap, but as the years go by and rap's starting to, you know, take off in the city, a lot more. Clicks was another one. They wouldn't let rap in there. We were the first ones to bring rap in there. Then you had Kevin Gates coming in there. You had Trill. So a lot of these venues, we were kind of the first to letting them let rap in there.
Yeah. And so what starts that? Because I know y'all started doing some albums with Boosie, with some of these other artists. So how did that come together? All
right, so we did the compilation series first, which was the Third World. And what we did was, we were all about just unity, unifying. We're like, look, we like this guy from this side of town, this guy from this side, as far as his music, let's put them together. So we kind of orchestrated who went on what track together. And, you know, and so Boosie at this time is getting really hot. And so we're like, let's go back out and, you know, reach out to Boosie. It got to a point where a lot of people didn't know what Boosie, they didn't know his face. They just knew his name. So I would get calls from all over for people who wanted features, they'd come to us to get to him. So I must have got him probably 20 something different features over. And he would always say, okay, you know, what do y'all need too? So we end up just, you know, kind of growing that relationship, and we put him on the Third World projects, and then we got to a point where we got, you know, close with Trill, and we came up with the idea to do this both sides of the track, and it was kind of like a group album with us and Boosie. Yeah.
And how did that do?
Ended up being our top seller.
Right.
You know, at the time, when I saw it, had outperformed at the time, not now, but at the time, it outperformed Youngest of the Camp and For My Thug hit, which was his second album.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ended up hitting Billboard charts five weeks straight. So it was huge, and we ended up doing. We had a video for Murder Man Dance, which was off that album, and that was also Boosie's first time you saw him in a video.
Yeah, and I remember that too, because like, you knew Boosie when you heard him on a song, like you knew his voice, but it was like a couple of years before you knew what he looked like.
Look, and you know, he was on the cover of Youngest of the Camp, but he was real small, like with the train, so you really couldn't. And then he was on the For My Thugs, but it was crazy. It was bootlegging was going along. So, I mean, it was so much at that time. A lot of people just had the bootleg. So they didn't even have the actual CD.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's what we were doing back then.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people were.
Yeah.
Right.
And were you doing like film stuff throughout this whole? Because I know you said you had been doing film earlier, like in high school. And
well,
shit.
we did DVDs with a couple projects, and with the DVDs, you know, we're filming a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting back. I'm kind of doing the filming on the side, and of course getting into music videos. And that's when we ran into Wright Studios. And Wright Studios, that was Brian Wright and Chris Como, Bo Chaney, but they were the ones that shot Murder Man Dance. Mm-hmm. They contacted me through an email and they said, look, you know, we know that y'all know a lot of people. Can we do y'all's video and show y'all what we can do? I'm like, cool. And next thing you know, that's the ones who I end up having a meeting with Turk from Trill Entertainment, and I linked up them with Wright Studios so they could come do. They shot all the documentaries, not the documentaries. I'm sorry, the DVDs for Trill, which was the Badass and Ghetto Stories.
Yeah,
you know.
And so when, I guess, did you start shifting more towards the film side of it?
Okay, so the film side, like I said, I'll tell you when I got that call for Glory Road. And then I was still doing music, but one thing I kind of was putting film above music because all the CD stores were closing at this point. Yeah. My distributor I was working with, Gonzalez Music, which was, you know, right down the street with Matt. I had a close relationship with Matt Kivett, and man, that was just like the golden era for. I mean, it was. Man, I mean, he's like every Friday, come pick up a check, you know, and we had built up a catalog, you know, and so now that the stores were closing, the distributors were closing down. I was like, man, what do we do? You know? And at this time I couldn't see, you know, we didn't know about streaming coming. We didn't know what was next, but I knew we got all these movies in town. So let me shift my focus a little bit toward that. And that was just, I mean, it was just, man, we're doing 6-7 films a year at that time, you know? So that's kind of when I shifted at that point. And then I started producing, you know, we'd got some contract with the Sci-Fi Channel. So I did like four or five films, sci-fi films. For a while we had got into the family friendly genre was hot. So we did these horse films. I did like, I don't remember 4 of those. So it was kind of like whatever the demand was, that's what I was just trying to fill the demand no matter what it was.
And that's kind of how you were also able to learn, you know, how to do all that kind of stuff.
Yes. And it's another, just like music, teaching yourself, you know. I mean, I worked on the big films that, you know, that came in, but, you know, you're just doing your one job. So to learn everything on the smaller films, I was able to learn every aspect and how to do it. You know, everything. I did a lot of casting, you know, from casting, producing, locations, you know, just everything. So it was kind of like a crash course, you know, pretty much. But I learned so much with what I do today. I like to keep my team real small. I like to, you know, work with guys and girls that, you know, can do 5 jobs. You know, they're skilled. Like you're not just skilled doing one thing. You can do so many things where you can multitask and stuff like that. I just like that because I just feel like I love working with creatives that know how to do pretty much anything.
Yeah. And when did the Diamonds in the Dirt idea start? I guess kind of how that started. Man,
great question. So how it started was with Wright Studios again. There was a project called BR City is what I was starting off at first. And this was in like 2006 or 7, I think. And then we interviewed back then, you know, we had interviews with, you know, Boosie, Webby, Kuiper, you know, Nero, Max, Vaughn, Laylo. There was only so many groups. There wasn't that many though. Nussie, and this is before he had passed. And so I got discouraged because Wright Studios had hit me up and said, "Man, we lost all the tapes." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Man, we lost the footage, like or it was stolen or whatever, something." So I was like, "Man," that kind of discouraged me. I was like, "Well, you know, we'd worked for a couple years on this stuff." So that's when I shift gears and I said, "Let me do film." And then I had some downtime. I just completed a couple films. I said, you know, trying to think about what project I want to do next. And I was like, you know, I'm going to pick that project back up again. I'm going to pick it back up again. So I get a call like right after that from Max Minnelli. And And Max was like, man, look, I got this project. I want to. And Max interview you for, I'm going to do the history of Baton Rouge rap. I've got a title called Diamonds in the Dirt. I said, man, this is crazy. I was picking back up, because I had the idea previously. I said, I was going to pick up that idea and do kind of the same thing. So I guess we kind of both slept on it that night. And he calls me and he's like, man, I was thinking, I've got a lot of stuff already done. Why don't we just do it together? Why don't we combine and just do one instead of doing two similar projects? So, and I'd been knowing Max at that point for like 15 years, really close friends. And I was like, okay, let's do it, And then from right there, we got together, and that's how we started Diamonds in the Dirt.
How long did it take to put out the first one? Like interviews, everything?
Yeah, the first one, it took a while. He had started filming in 2015. I kind of came on board in 2015. And I just didn't know what he was doing, though. I didn't know that he had started doing a few interviews, but he didn't do any editing yet. He just shot a few interviews. And then from there, 2017, man, it took a while because on the first one, just trying to kind of figure out the direction, trying to figure out where we're trying to go with it. And at first, we're only going to do one. But then we're like, man, we started editing. We're like, there's no way. Like, there's too many artists now, to do that. So to answer your question, I think we put out part one, what was that, in 20... It didn't come out till, what was that, 2021, 2022, something like that?
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it took a long time. A lot of it was too is like trying to figure out where to cut it off. We had made it a lot longer, but we're like, it's too long, and we know we're going to do more than one. And really, when you're doing film, you have to make sure that you keep people entertained. So we end up kind of cutting off. We had to cut off at a certain point. Like, what do we do? So we're like, let's take it from 85 to 2000. So the first one covers pretty much the scene from 1985 all the way up to 2000.
Yeah, and I like that too, and you could tell that's what y'all are going for, because it does. It gets you, like, the first one gets you like right up to where it's, at least for me, like the Boosie stuff and all that, and then you're like, and then it kind of stops, and you're like, okay, it makes sense that there's going to be another one. Right.
And so we pick up from there. From in part two was like from 2000 to 2010. And the crazy thing about it was, like, after the first one, I mean, now we're catching heat from all sides of the city. I can't believe I'm not on there. I can't believe so-and-so's not on there. And there was a lot of people kind of talking, and they hadn't even seen part one. So you have to see it to understand. And we kept, trying to get the information out there, like, there's going to be another one. That's why. But they didn't want to hear that. People didn't want to hear that.
So it's like rappers. Yeah.
So a lot of artists are upset, in dealing with that. And, an artist around here, there's a lot of egos involved. So we're like, man, you're just going to have to be patient. I don't know what to tell you, So that comes around, and we're like, okay, now we covered all this, and then here it comes again. Why is so-and-so not on there? Why is, just people mad? But I'm like, again, like we told you before, there's going to be another one. And we're going through that right now for part four. But again, part four is kind of like 2010 to where we are now.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, especially in Baton Rouge, because there is, like, every 10 years there is like these groups of, I mean, especially now, dude, there's so many artists coming out of Baton Rouge. Like, there's so much material to cover. Like, there's so much.
That's a great question. Not to cut you off, it's a great question, but I was about to say before you even asked the question. But so basically what we did was we had to set the, what is the criteria, for being on there. So what we decided was, at this point, we've interviewed, over 250 people, 250 artists, producers, DJs, producers, radio personalities. And what we came up with is we ask certain questions. We give you the opportunity to, if nobody mentions your name out of 250 people, it's hard to justify you being on there. So anybody you see that's been on there their names come up over and over and over and over again. So that's kind of how we base the criteria.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's like it's not a non-biased approach, where it's not what I think, it's not what Max thinks. It's kind of like
what the people think.
Yeah.
And I do like that too. I like how you did, like, y'all covered X-File, and y'all covered these producers and the people that made the beat, like all these different parts of it that normally you don't hear about, because like everyone knows who Boosie is, everyone knows who Level is, and all these artists. But
that's right.
The people behind the music, I like that part.
I'm glad you said that too, because we catch a lot of people complaining about whose name needs to be on the artwork. I mean, it's so much stuff we deal with, man. Like every day it's something, but we treated it kind of like it's nostalgic. It's like a rap album, the cover. Mm-hmm. You never saw a producer's name featuring the producer, right, on a rap album. When you bought a rap album, it was always just the features, the artist. Yeah. So we kind of set that standard too, as far as or that criteria, I should say, where, you have Mouse on there, but he's an artist as well. So, but saying that to say this, producers is just as important, though, right? So we wanted to dig deep and cover the producers. You're right. You don't see a lot of them doing interviews. You hear their names. You're right. You don't see their faces. So we wanted to make sure that we did a big segment, which was on part 3. Yeah. On the producers.
And it's because there's I think just as many big rappers have come out of Baton Rouge as big producers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A lot of these do, and stuff I didn't even know that I learned from watching the movie.
Yeah. And a lot of them, the producers, you don't know that they produced a lot of this music, you know, so it's like, and I know it's hard, you want to get the recognition, but not only that, you want to get more work. That's what that's what the purpose of, when you're producing, you want to get out there further to get other people to, give you that phone call, that DM or whatever, to get you to produce for them. Right. So, that Architects of the Sound segment on 3, like I said, we really wanted to make sure we showcase those people.
Yeah, and I guess we could talk about 3.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about it before we started recording, but that was like my favorite one.
Okay.
So far, and the reason is because the beginning gives you. The other 2 give you history, but I like the beginning where it gives you history of not only the music scene, but like Baton Rouge, and kind of how the music tied into what was going on. So you want to talk about that?
I do. 3's my favorite as well. I just like the whole linear. It just feels like a film, like to me. Like, and you're absolutely. I learned a lot. Like, some of these guys, it goes back to the 70s as far as when they're breakdancing, they're on Soul Train, shout out to James Governor and Whirl. But I met these guys through the project. So it's just doing research. And so that's what I like about it too, is learning things that I didn't know, And even as far back as like Kuiper was another one that was, heavy in the dance scene. And he was the first artist from Baton Rouge to go gold and platinum. So to know that history and not know that history before until you really dig into it, like that was really interesting to me.
No, I think that was my favorite part. And then also because y'all focused a lot in this one on, I guess, 2010 to... Not current.
Not really current. Yeah. And really, once we cover an artist, we kind of take them to current in a way, but it's really focusing on their breakout. That's really when it was. Who was breaking out at this? Because we have some artists like, well, I was rapping in 2005. It's like, yeah, but your first major single wasn't till 2012. So we kind of bring them in the story when they're kind of having their breakout. So that's kind of another thing, because it's like, how do you put in what order? Because a lot of people are doing it at the same time. Yeah. So that's another thing. It's like a puzzle, man. Like it's just, and we put a lot of time into, putting it together, like on paper first, like, okay, what comes next? Like, who's all involved in this group? Who was involved in this movement? What did this movement influence? Like, this guy influenced this guy who influenced this guy. So it's really just putting a puzzle together.
And I think that's why I say this one was my favorite, because y'all did, and like there's like a part in the film where you're like jumping from like this happened over here in North Baton Rouge, and which influenced this to start over here, because there was so much music coming, especially around 2010. There was so much music coming out of everywhere. I liked how y'all tied it all in. So how? Because I also noticed that there was so many people on the third one.
Yes.
That you
152.
Right. So you had to you didn't get the longer interviews or the longer story, I guess, behind the artist.
Yeah. Because we couldn't. Right. We really couldn't. That's another thing people have a problem with, but it's like, you know, you got to still be productive. You still have to, you know, I would like to spend more time with each group, you know, but it's hard. And a lot of them we come back to, though. You know, they think that, oh man, that's all I'm on it. Well, no, that's all the part here. But now you were with this label and you did this and that. So it's like, it's more topics on 3 and errors, kind of. So we bring people in and out. And some people that are on 3, they're going to be on 4 again. So it's like people, I just, to me, I'm with you. Like, 3 is just by far. I liked 1 and 2, you know, like I like them all, but 3, I enjoyed making 3 the most too.
You could feel it. You could feel like, because it not that 1 and 2 were bad at all. They were great. 3 just, it feels more, you know, I guess the story flows.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that was my next question. How many are y'all going to do?
You know, we're probably going to cut it off at 4, but you know, you never know. You know, once we really won't know until we get into it a little more. We have a lot of interviews already done for 4. You know, we have some stuff edited already. But you know, it's going to take it's going to take some time on 4, because like I said again, you know, now everybody on every corner is
there's a lot of rappers. And a lot of successful rappers.
Absolutely.
Coming out of Baton Rouge right now.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm behind all of them, man. Like I don't no picks or chooses. Like I want everybody to succeed, not only for themselves, their families, but you know, it's great for the city.
And I think that's what comes through, you know, in the movies is this is like a Baton Rouge, because it's a story that hadn't got told, at least the whole story, you know, of the music, where it started, where it's at now, and everything in between. I really enjoy. So
I appreciate that.
What are you doing nowadays?
Okay, great question. So I've got another film I'm about to start that I'm doing, and I'm kind of I'll put my strategy out there, but it's basically I did a reality show called Beyond the Sash, and it was 75 females from around the world compete like in a food competition in Cancun every year, and it's actually the old Hawaiian Tropic, but Hawaiian Tropic was sold and Energizer brought it out, but this was like the swimsuit division of that. So I did that for years, but by doing that I came up with the idea to mix actors with influencers. So basically taking a lot of influencers who really don't have a film background, but online they do their pages are really successful. They do a lot of skits. So they're being behind a camera, they're familiar with it, even though they didn't do a bunch of film, and then mixing them with actors. The next one specifically that I'm doing it in Mississippi. I'm taking someone specifically that I'm doing that were iconic and mixing them with influencers. It's going to kind of have that 80s vibe. And my partner Joe Mexican and Brittany Van Dyke, who are both from here, they wrote the script. And really funny. It's kind of like a comedy with a little romance side in it too. But we're going to be filming that this year in Mississippi.
Yeah, I think Joe's coming on next week.
Really? Okay, yeah.
He had reached out to us, and he's going to come on.
Cool.
And I didn't even realize, so y'all work together.
Well, I met Joe in film in 2004, so we've been friends ever since. He was doing Group and Electric at the time, and I got a funny story about Joe. We're doing a film, and something I forgot what, some piece of equipment fell and like split his head open. So Joe, I mean, he's just leaking, you know. So he goes to the hospital, and next thing we know, he shows back up, has his head stitched up, comes back to work.
Damn.
The same day, you know, and it's crazy. So I was like, okay, I like this guy, you know, super hard worker, super talented. But I've seen him grow, you know, from doing that to he started doing videos in like the mid 2000s, and just watching him just learn. He's so talented, you know. He's so talented, not only as a director, writer, cinematographer. You know, he's been doing some acting. He does all kind of stuff, you know. But and again, like I said earlier, people who can multitask, people who can do, you know, 5 or 6 jobs on a film set. That's who I want to work with. What's
your favorite thing to do on a film set?
Man, great question. My favorite thing on a film set is I like all of it, man. Like I'm passionate about it. Like I really care about, you know, making sure even if it's my favorite, not my favorite script, sometimes I want it to be a great product no matter what. And like, what do we need to do that? So, in producing, you're putting out a lot of fires. There's fires. I always say, producing is like riding a bike. Except for the bike's on fire, you're on fire, everything's on fire, and you really have to put out the fire that's closest to your feet first. So that's kind of what producing's like. Joking, but that's a good analogy. You're dealing with all kind of issues. You're dealing with all kind of personalities. Actors. I mean,
a lot of moving parts. And just again trying to keep everybody like just on one page together. And it's a lot, when you got, some of our film sets 40, 50 people and trying to, make it cohesive, but I love it, I love it. It gets stressful, but I kind of embrace that part of it too. I like everything from, putting it together, the filming process. I'm in the editing room, delivery, distribution, every aspect. Yeah. You and Joe work together on all that, on all those different films?
Yeah. We'll branch out and, I'll do something over here and he'll do something over there, and we kind of, then we'll, come together, or he'll call me and say, hey, help me out with this, or I'll do the same to him. We've done quite a few where we go in from the beginning together and build together.
Yeah, and I think you still do music videos. I think I saw you doing one for Tebow.
Yeah, we did one for Tebow.
Weekend.
Called Spaceship Kid, which is his new single. Y'all can check that out. It's out now, and that was a good time. We're editing that one right now. It's going to be a little time involved because there's a lot of, we shot a green screen too, so there's a lot of moving parts on that one too. Yes, and we shot that with the Red camera, which is, the files are huge. You got to transcode the footage, and there's a lot of special effects and stuff like that. So it just takes time.
Yeah. What's your favorite genre of movie to produce?
Great question. I would say I like reality. I like reality, kind of like dramatic. I did a film. My favorite film I did probably was A Girl Like Grace. Garcelle with I had Megan Good, Raven Simone, Garcelle Beauvais. That was Ryan Destiny's first film. Paige Hurd, Romeo. We had a ton of people in that one. But that one is what I like. That's what I like. Ty Hodges, who directed that, and we did another film, Video Girl, together. Which that was the second film I did with Megan Good, Girl Like Grace. Another film we shot in Mississippi, but it was just reality. I mean, I've shot sci-fi, I've shot, like, again, whatever the market, but those are my favorite kind of films. And we ended up selling that to BT, and they did like a second run on it too. So I think they aired it for maybe 4 years or something like that.
Are you still doing any concerts?
No, I actually performed at Tebow's last album release party, just for fun. But that was kind of like the last one that I did, and I had a line. We performed a song "Legendary" on his album, and this line, I'm gonna walk out game in the same way I came, and that was kind of like, to me, even when I wrote the verse and the line, I'm like, that's the perfect
ending
exit right there. And I'm the game doesn't owe me anything, man. I had we had a great run. We sold over 100,000 records. That's just, and out the trunk, I couldn't even tell you, but, was able to travel, do concerts all over the United States. And, man, like I said, the game doesn't owe us anything.
Yeah. What, as far as Baton Rouge goes, because I know that's like the underlying theme of everything is like this unity within, Baton Rouge and just Louisiana music as a whole.
Yeah.
I guess, what do you see as far as that going? Like, is that something that's continuing and like, or seems like other people are kind of getting on board, at least with when y'all are shooting the movie and stuff like that?
Yeah. Good question. I see it continuing to advance. You look at Young Boy right now. The biggest in the world. And being right here. From 38th Street. Fredo and TBG. Making major moves. Of course, Kevin Gates still. Boosie, Webby. You've had so many, but I think that's going to continue because I think what all those guys did was inspire. You know, I know. Rest in peace, Lil Fat was, I always hear, a big inspiration for young boys. So these guys continue to inspire the generation, you know, underneath them. So I think it's only going to continue to progress. And I'm kind of excited to see who's next.
Yeah. And I guess, why do you think that, like, so many of those artists are coming out of one place? Because I mean, you just listed you know. Right.
That's a great question. And, you know, it's a small city.
Yeah.
You know, as you know. I think it's just something about Baton Rouge. That's just what it is. There's like an aura. There's a, you know, that's just the universe, man.
Kind of
Baton
like
Rouge.
a passing of the torch too. Is like,
yes.
Do you see these guys that came through and are like reaching back to the guys coming up?
I think they're somewhat, but I don't think it's even that. It's just they're reaching back by showing them you can do it. It's more. I'm from where you're from, you know. So I think it's more of that. It's just kind of showing them the way, showing them the path, you know. And the path has changed over the years so many times. Like I remember from tapes to CDs to streaming to now it's just, you know, social media, and it's changed, you know, so much. But I to answer your question, I do see it continuing to grow.
Yeah. And is the Diamonds in the Dirt 3, is it in theaters right now?
Okay, so it's not in theaters right now. It's been delivered for distribution. It works a little bit different nowadays as far as you don't just get like a set release date like they used to.
Yeah.
So we're just being patient, but it's going to be any day now. You know, like I said, and 1 and 2 are still performing well on the platforms, so we're just waiting. The platforms now too is kind of like a shift. They're taking a little bit longer to go live than they used to, because there's so much product coming out. So it's not like a music where you can just put something out and it'll be out on Friday. It doesn't work that way. So, but the film has been delivered, so we're just kind of waiting any day now though.
And where can people find it?
They're going to be able to find it, like you can watch 1 and 2 now. It'll be the same outlets, but Tubi, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, YouTube, what's another major? Roku. But those are kind of the major outlets, I would say.
Yeah. And I'm hoping y'all do another like release like y'all did for, I guess y'all have done it for all 3 of them.
Yeah, for all 3 of them.
Yeah. I was telling my old lady when I got home, I was like, I don't know that if I can go watch a movie without Level being there now. He was so hyped because I went to the one in Gonzales.
Yeah, it's, man, Level, you know, and Level's a type, it was funny. He don't like to be around big crowds, really, unless he's on stage. And that's kind of like still the same thing. Like, he's a performer at heart, right? And I was like, Level, please come to the Baton Rouge screening. And he wasn't able to make that one, but at that one we had, you know, people on the wall. We had like 300, and I quit counting at 300 and some people that came out. But when you have Level there, it's like you're at a concert. You know what I mean? So, you know, Levels come to the last 2 in Baton Rouge, and it makes it that much better.
No, it was great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for doing this. And, appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And like I said at first, enjoyed the first couple episodes, and I'm kind of, you know, going to be behind y'all and support y'all, and hopefully get these Louisiana legends out there even further.